3:27 Saul is jealous. Chapter 19. And Saul told Jonathan his son and all his servants that they should kill David. Three to eight. Saul tries to kill David. But Jonathan, Saul's son, was delighted much in David, and Jonathan spoke to David, saying, Saul my father seeks to kill you. Now therefore take heed to yourself, and sit in a secret place and hide yourself. 3. And I will go out and stand beside my father in the field where you are, and I will speak to my father concerning you. And I will see what is on his mind, and I will tell you. 4. And Jonathan spoke good of David to Saul his father, and said to him, Let not the king sin against his servant David, for he has not sinned against you, and his works are sufficient proof of his loyalty to you. 5. For he put his life at your disposal, and slew the Philistine, and the Lord wrought a great salvation for Israel by his hand, and you saw it, and rejoiced. And now, why then will you sin against innocent blood, to slay David without a cause? 6. And Saul listened to the voice of Jonathan his son, and Saul swore, saying, As the Lord lives, he shall not be put to death. 7. Then Jonathan called David, and told him all these things. And Jonathan brought David to Saul, and he was with him as in past times. 8. And there was a war again, and David went out and fought with the Philistines, and slew them with a great slaughter, and they fled before him. Nine. And an evil spirit from the Lord came upon Saul as he sat in his house with a javelin in his hand, and David played the harp in his presence. 10. And Saul sought to pin David to the wall with the javelin, but he fled from Saul's presence, and Saul struck the javelin into the wall, and David fled and escaped that night. 11. And Saul sent messengers to David's house to watch him and to slay him in the morning. But Michal, David's wife, told him, saying, If you do not save yourself tonight, tomorrow you will be put to death. 12. So Michal let David down through a window, and he fled and escaped. And 13. And Michal took an idol and laid it in the bed, and put a pillow of goat skin at the head of it, and covered it with a bed cover. 14. And when Saul sent messengers to take David, she said, He is sick. 15. And Saul sent the messengers again to see David, saying, Bring him up to me in the bed, that I may kill him. 16. And when the messengers came in, behold, there was an idol in the bed with a pillow of goat's hair at its head. 17. And they told Saul, and Saul said to Michal, Why have you deceived me so, and let my enemy depart, so that he has escaped? And Michal said to Saul, He said to me, Let me go, or else I will kill you. 18. So David fled and escaped, and came to Samuel at Ramtha, and to him, and told him all that Saul had done to him. And Samuel went and dwelt in Jonath, which is in Ramtha. 19. And it was told Saul, saying, Behold, David is at Jonath, which is in Ramtha. 20. And Saul sent messengers to take David. And when they saw the company of the prophets prophesying, and Samuel standing as a leader over them, and the Spirit of God came upon the messengers of Saul, and they also prophesied. 21. And it was told to Saul, he sent other messengers, and they also prophesied. And Saul sent messengers again the third time, and they prophesied also. 22. And then he said to him, then he himself went to Ramtha and came as far as the great cistern, which is at the east, which is at the end of the town. And Saul said, Where are Samuel and David? And they said to him, Behold, they are at Jonath, which is in Ramtha. 23. And he went toward Jonath in Ramtha, and the Spirit of God came upon him also, and he went on and prophesied until he came to Jonath in Ramtha. 24. And he stripped off his clothes and prophesied before Samuel, and lay down naked all that day and all that night. Wherefore they say, Behold, is Saul among the prophets? Jonathan befriends David 3-9. Chapter 20. And David fled from Jonath, which is in Ramtha, and came and said to Jonathan, What have I done? What is my offense? And what is my crime before your father, that he seeks my life? 2. And Jonathan said to him, God forbid you shall not die. Behold, my father does nothing, either great nor small, which he does not reveal to me. And why should my father hide this thing from me? It is not so. 3. And David swore moreover and said, It is because your father knows that I have found favor in your eyes. Therefore he said, Let not Jonathan know this, lest he be grieved. But truly as the Lord lives, and as your soul lives, there is but a step between me and death. 4. Then Jonathan said to David, Whatever you desire I will do for you. 5. And David said to Jonathan, Behold, tomorrow is the new moon, and I should not fail to sit in the presence of your father to eat. But let me go, that I may hide myself in the field until the third day at evening. 6. If your father should miss me, then say to him, David earnestly asked leave of me, that he might go to Bethlehem his city, for there is a yearly sacrifice there for all the family. 7. And if he says thus, it is well, then your servant shall have peace. But if he is displeased, then be sure that evil is determined by him. 8. Therefore you shall deal kindly with your servant, for you have brought your servant into a covenant of the Lord with you. But if there is folly in me, slay me yourself. Why should you bring me to your father? 9. Jonathan said, God forbid, for if I knew of a certainty that evil was determined by my father to come upon you, then I would come to you and tell you. 10. Then David said to Jonathan, Who shall report to me if your father answers you roughly? 11. And Jonathan said to David, Come, let us go out into the field. So they both went out into the field. 12. And Jonathan said to David, The Lord God of Israel be a witness that I will sound my father about this time tomorrow, the third hour, and behold, if he feels good toward you, then I will send to you and disclose it to you. 13. Then the Lord do so, and much more to Jonathan, if it please my father to do you harm. Then I will disclose it to you, and send you away, that you may go in peace. And the Lord be with you, as he has been with my father. 14. And if only you will show me the kindness of God while I live, before I die. 15. And also you shall not cut off your kindness from my house forever, when the Lord destroys the enemies of David from the face of the earth. 16. So Jonathan's house shall flourish with the house of David, and may the Lord take vengeance on David's enemies. 17. And Jonathan caused David to swear again, because he loved him, for he loved him as he loved his own soul. 18. Then Jonathan said to him, tomorrow is the new moon, and you shall be missed, because your seat will be empty. 19. And when at the third hour you'll be warned very much, then you shall come tomorrow to the place where you hid yourself, and you shall sit down beside the same stone. 20. And if I will shoot 3 arrows to the side of it, as though I had shot at a mark. 21. And behold, I will send a lad to go to gather up the arrows. And if I should say to the lad, the arrows are on this side of you, take them and come, then you will know and see there is peace to you. There is no danger, as the Lord liveth. 22. But if I say to the lad, behold, the arrows are beyond you, then go your way, for the Lord has sent you away. .30 David escapes. 23. And as for the matter of which you spoke, and I have spoken, behold, the Lord is between you and me forever. 24. So David hid himself in the field, and when the new moon came, the king sat down to dine. 25. And the king sat upon his seat by the wall, as at other times, and Jonathan went and sat upon the seat, and Abner sat by Saul's side, but David's place was empty. 26. Nevertheless, Saul did not say anything that day, for he thought something has happened to him, or perhaps he is unclean. When a person has been defiled by breaking certain ordinances, he was required to purify himself before a feast. See 21:4. Or perhaps he has not purified himself. 27. And it came to pass on the morrow, the second day of the new moon, David's place was still empty. And Saul said to Jonathan his son, why has not the son of Jesse come to eat, either yesterday or today? 28. And Jonathan answered and said to Saul his father, David earnestly asked me to leave to go to Bethlehem. 29. And he said, let me go, for our family has a sacrifice in the city, and my brother has commanded me to be there. And now, if I found favor in your eyes, let me get away to say, my brothers, this is the reason he has not come to the king's table. 30. Then Saul's anger was kindled against Jonathan, and he said to him, oh, you rebellious son, do I not know that you are delighted in the son of Jesse, to your own shame, and to the shame of your mother's nakedness? 31. As long as the son of Jesse lives upon the earth, you shall not be established, nor your kingdom. Therefore, now I will send and have him brought to me, for he will surely die. 32. And Jonathan answered and said to Saul his father, why should he be put to death? What has he done? 33. And Saul lifted up a javelin to smite him, whereby Jonathan knew that his father was determined to slay David. 34. So Jonathan arose from the table in fierce anger, and did not eat food the second day of the month, for he was grieved for David, because his father had determined evil against him. 35. And it came to pass in the morning, Jonathan went out into the field to meet David, and a little lad was with him. 36. And he said to the lad, run, gather up the arrows which I shoot. And as the lad ran, he shot an arrow beyond him. 37. And when the lad came to the place where Jonathan had shot the arrows, Jonathan called after the lad and said, behold, the arrow is beyond you. 38. And Jonathan called again after the lad, saying, make haste, quick, stay not. And Jonathan's lad gathered up the arrows and brought them to his master. 39. But the lad knew not anything, and Jonathan and David knew the matter. 40. And Jonathan gave his weapons to his lad and said to him, go, carry them to the city. 41. And as soon as the lad was gone, David arose from beside the stone and came to Jonathan, and fell on his face to the ground, and bowed himself 3 times. And they kissed each other and wept over each other. But David wept more. 42. Then Jonathan said to David, Go in peace, inasmuch as we have sworn both of us in the name of the Lord, saying, The Lord be between me and you, and between my descendants and your descendants forever. Then Jonathan arose and went into the city. Chapter 21. Then David came to know to Ahimelech the priest, and Ahimelech was afraid at meeting David, and said to him, Why have you come alone, and no man with you? 2. And David said to Ahimelech the priest, The king has entrusted me with a matter, and has said to me, Let not a man know the thing for which I send you. And what I have commanded you, and I have stationed my servants at hidden and obscure places. 331. David lives in a cave. 3. Now therefore, what provisions have you in your possession? Give me 5 loaves of bread in my hand, or whatever can be found. 4. And the priest answered David and said to him, There is no common bread in my possession, but there's hallowed bread. You may have it if the young men have kept themselves from touching unclean things. 5. And David answered the priest and said to him, The hallowed bread has been lawful for us since yesterday, and the day before, when we left, and behold, the clothes of the young men are holy, and the bread is now practically common, even though it was sanctified this day in the vessels. 6. So the priest gave him hallowed bread, for there was no bread but the showbread that was taken from before the Lord, to be replaced by hot bread on the day when it was taken away. 7. Now a certain man of the servants of Saul was there that day, detained before the Lord, and his name was Doeg, an Edomite, the chief of the herdsmen that belonged to Saul. 8. And David said to Ahimelech, Is there not here in your possession a sword or a spear? For I have brought neither my sword nor my javelin with me, because the king's business required haste. 9. And the priest said, The sword of Goliath the Philistine, whom you slew in the valley of Terebinth, behold, it is here wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod. If you wish to take it, for there is no other but that here. And David said, There is none like it. There is none like that. Give it to me. 10. And David arose and fled that day from the fear of Saul, and went to Achish the king of Gath. 11. And the servants of Achish said to him, Is not this David the king of the land of Israel? Did not the daughters of Israel sing to one another of him in dances, saying, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands? 12. And David laid up these words in his heart, and was exceedingly afraid of Achish, the king of Gath. 13. So he changed his behavior in his presence, and disguised himself in their sight, and sat in the doorpost, and let his spittle fall down upon his beard. 14. Then Achish said to his servants, Lo, you see the man is mad. Why have you brought him to me? 15. Do I lack good manners, that you have brought me this fellow who misbehaves in my presence? Shall this fellow come into my house?